Alright, hey guys, I'm really excited to film this video today. I'm going to give you a complete tour of all 14 sewing machines that I own currently. And without keeping you waiting any longer, let's get started. First up is going to be my machine behind me. This is the Juki DDL 8700H. It is an industrial sewing machine. I bought it from a company in Chicago. They also have their own YouTube channel, which is sewinggold.com. And I bought this during the pandemic. I had a lot of questions and I was doing some research about where I wanted to get my machine, and the owner, Steve, was able to talk me through a lot of different options, a lot of great advice, and if you guys are looking for an industrial sewing machine yourself, I would definitely recommend him. This machine was shipped to me. Now, with this machine, with the table and everything and all of my accessories, I paid around $1,200. So of course, that's the table, the thread stand, a bunch of different thread, a bunch of different extra needles, and extra presser feet. Like, I was debating when I made this video, all right, well, should I do like demonstrations? But I think that in the future, if you guys are interested and want to see demonstrations of all of my different machines, I'll do individual videos for each machine. But today it's just gonna be like running through and introducing you to all of my different machines. So that's it for the industrial Juki. Let's move on to my next sewing machine. Next up is my Singer 1591. This was found at a thrift shop in my neighborhood. I only spent $15 on this machine. When I bought this, it was not in working condition. I did have to tune it up. I had to buy a couple new parts and clean it out, but it was within my means of repair. And honestly, even if it wasn't, only $15, no big deal. This machine is from, I want to say, the late 40s, early 50s. I looked up the serial number. I think that this model was 1948 specifically. I've seen people selling these machines for $400 to $500 in great condition. My machine is in excellent condition. I really couldn't believe it. It has all of the original detailing with very little wear and tear. I was able to polish it up and get it looking brand new. This machine is very cool and very unique in the sense that it is a different motor than most vintage machines. This has what's called a potted motor. So basically the potted motor just offers more torque and more horsepower. This machine I have seen on several different marketplaces listed as industrial. However, this is a domestic. It's not an industrial sewing machine. It will not have the lifespan you need it to in industrial conditions. This is not going to be able to sew for 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? That's really it for this machine. I absolutely love it. And if you are ever out at a thrift store, I would definitely check out thrift stores. They do have these on occasion. It's the first time I've ever seen this particular model, but I'm glad that I was looking, you know? All right, so let's move on to our next sewing machine. Up next is another vintage sewing machine. This is the White brand. The brand, of course, the color is turquoise. The White brand used to produce sewing machines, but I believe they were bought out or became a part of Husqvarna. I bought this one from a seller on Facebook Marketplace who was selling this accessories and the table all for $30, which I thought was very reasonable. They were not sure if it was in working condition when I first started talking to her, but I was able to ask them to plug it in and see if it was running, so I knew that it ran. It did not need to be repaired, but it definitely needed to be cleaned out. I can tell that the motor will need to be replaced fairly soon. When you press down on the presser foot, it kind of just goes right away. If you have any sewing machines, especially vintage, and that's happening where you're not having any sort of gradual buildup in speed, it could be the motor is starting to go. This machine came with accessories, which is always great. I do look for that if I'm looking at vintage sewing machines. This machine came with plinking shears. Next in this tin are just presser feet and extra needle plate, extra bobbins, or the decorative cams. So basically what cams are the way that vintage machines would perform a decorative stitch. A compartment on top where you would insert the cam, based on the grooves, as it's turning, it would perform this decorative stitch. I haven't used it too much yet because this one I did buy rather recently, but it's really reliable and I'm glad that I bought it. All right, let's move on to the next machine. My next sewing machine is a Brother Opus, the 141 model. This one is very special to me. It was given to me by a friend. I'm so grateful that they gave it to me, and I had this opportunity to repair it, and now it is in great working condition. It's one of the machines I use most frequently. It's stunning. I use this machine primarily for buttonholes because you're able to modulate the zigzag stitch here. So I was talking to you about potted motors on my Singer 1591. So this is what a typical motor looks like on a vintage machine. It is on the outside and it is belted. The potted motor, of course, looks a little different because it's actually built into the machine. All right, now let's move on to our next sewing machine. I'm going to talk to you about 3 machines at once. These 2 are Serger sewing machines, and the one in the middle is a cover stitch machine. These machines are really great. Of course, if you are doing any sort of clothing, these are extremely beneficial. They just offer a very professional seam. This is the Singer Heavy Duty, and this is the white Speedylock. I don't believe that the white Speedylock is being produced anymore. This I got at a local thrift store. These can get very expensive. I have one of the cheaper models. This is $200, but they can get anywhere like up to $600 or $800 depending on the brand. Now this machine in the middle is a cover stitch machine. This is the Juki brand, the MCS 1500. I spent $650 on this machine. I got it on sale. Brand new, this machine I believe was $800. I was able to buy this last year after the Black Friday rush, and if you are a customer of mine, I am so grateful. You really blew me out of the water this year, and all of those sales went back into my business and I was able to reinvest and buy this machine. So yeah, that's it for my sergers and cover stitch. Let's move on to my next sewing machines. All right, next are my 3 more modern machines. It is the Singer Heavy Duty. This is the 4411 series, and I have 2 Singer Curvies. This machine is newer. This one is my original that was bought for me by my mother for my 17th birthday. This is the second machine that I've ever owned. Right now, it is not in working condition. It is beyond my means of repair. So I actually have this set aside. I'm going to be taking this in very soon to get it professionally repaired. I bought this one from a seller on Facebook Marketplace for a very reasonable price. Of course, I wanted to get it because it is just like the machine that I've used the longest. It came with some accessories and it came with a carrying case. I'm so glad that I bought all of these, and yeah, so we are nearing the end. Let's move on to our next sewing machines. All right, we are out in my kitchen now. So these 2 machines are actually ones that I have not gotten around to refurbishing yet. These both were bought from local thrift stores. They both were under $20, and the reason I bought them is because they both came with their original accessory container. This one even still has its original manual. You know that I'll be able to repair them. I did fiddle around with them to kind of diagnose what the issues were, and it seems like one of them, I think this one, the timing is off, so the timing just needs to be readjusted with this one. I'm not like a professional repairman at all. I'm just kind of like, I've always repaired my own sewing machines, so I just know what to kind of look for and what to listen for. When I'm out and about and looking, just at a thrift store, I always stop to see what kind of sewing machines they have. It's nice to try to repair them and learn that way. I also think that in the future, I'm just going to start giving them away or selling them for cheap, just to give other people that are interested in sewing a start to building their own hobby and potentially their own career. And I want to have enough sewing machines on hand where I will be able to teach a small class when that day finally comes. We only have 2 sewing machines left. If you've watched it this far, thank you so much. If you're interested in seeing more, please leave a comment below. I would love to know if you have any questions about the sewing machines, if you want to see individual videos about the sewing machines. So without further ado, let's move on to our final two. The next sewing machine is a really great sewing machine. I bought this one from a seller on Facebook Marketplace. This is the Sears Kenmore 1802 model. I spent about $120 on this sewing machine, which is a bit more than I would normally spend on a vintage machine, but the seller was so helpful. They sent me a video of the machine working. It was in working condition, and it also came with its original guidebook and this amazing case filled with its original accessories. Now, when I'm on Facebook Marketplace and I'm looking at like vintage sewing machines, whether it be like Marketplace or Craigslist or anything like that, I always ask some important questions to kind of gauge the quality of the machine. Was it kept in a case? Was it kept in the basement? Like, is it dusty? Does it work? Does it not work? I mean, I've bought machines that don't work, but of course I won't spend as much because it's going to take a lot longer to repair and diagnose the issues. If you're ever out looking for sewing machines, I would definitely always ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Are you the original owner of the machine? Do you know if it still works? When was the last time you used it? If they are not able to give you straightforward answers or honest answers, you could kind of tell, and I would just be wary. Don't force yourself to like a machine. Don't force yourself to buy a machine that you don't know is going to work, or if you don't know if you're able to repair it, because that's just money out the window. Like, you're buying it from a retailer where you could go ahead, you have that receipt or you have that warranty, and you can go and return it. So don't waste your time, don't waste your money, and don't force yourself to buy something that you're not too sure about. But let's move on to my final sewing machine. It is one of my favorite sewing machines that I own. All right, this is my final sewing machine. It is the Singer 66, also known as the Singer Red Eye. It is an amazing sewing machine. If you don't know, this is a treadle sewing machine, which is also the foot pedal sewing machine. This is all a wood cabinet made with maple, cast iron base, and all of the frame. I believe that this is cast iron as well. I bought this from a seller on Facebook Marketplace. Now that I'm talking about them, I've bought most of my machines on Facebook Marketplace. The seller was selling this for $75. It definitely needed to be repaired, but what's so amazing about this machine is there was such little wear and tear on the actual machine itself. The decals are almost all still intact. There is no scratches or scrapes at all, and it's just a really great machine. On the other hand, the cabinet does have a lot of wear and tear. This machine would be considered an antique because it is over 100 years old. Based on the serial number, was made between the 1900s and the 1910s. Ultimately, I'm really glad that I bought this. That is my complete sewing machine collection. If you've watched the whole video, thank you so much. Please leave me a comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Talk to you later.